All right, today's top 5 is going to be Heroclix team abilities.
There we go.
So this will be exciting. For those of you that don't know, Tabletop Syndicate here, Joker Prime and Squints.
What's up?
And yeah, we're doing Heroclix team abilities today. Most of our top 5 content is revolving around Heroclix. Most of our content in general. We try to get some other stuff out. We'll put some other stuff out sprinkled in here or there, but this is like the main thing that we like to do. So
Absolutely.
You want to get us rolling, or you want me to start us off?
I can
today?
do it. I can start. So
you're number 5.
Absolutely. So in case you all don't know, team abilities, that's that little symbol on the back of your Clicks dial. That's maybe you didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, we ignored them for a long time.
We did. We were like, what is that? Oh, who cares? Okay. But they give you extra powers. So here we go. My number 5 was the Superman team ability.
Ooh.
But now, and also another thing, a lot of times the DC team abilities will have a Marvel equivalent and vice versa.
Yep.
So the Marvel equivalent to the Superman ally team ability is the Avengers Initiative ability. Now, the reason why it's number 5 is what it gives you, first of all, I should say that, is it gives you improved movement past hindering and improved targeting through hindering. Now, with the new rules, the improved movement through hindering is garbage. Doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
Now, I think they might have retconned it. I'm not sure. They did retcon a few of the team abilities because of the changes to the rules. But even regardless, even without that, right, I still love being able to shoot through hindering because stealth, I hate stealth. Even if a character doesn't have stealth, because, well, number one, if a character does have stealth, a lot of times it's because they're super annoying. They have some super annoying outwit or prob or something that they're doing from protection, from range. And even if you do get in their face, they probably have combat reflexes, and it's annoying. So
feels like you're speaking from experience.
A lot of experience, mostly against Batman abilities or Batman teams.
Yeah.
And so I love being able to shoot through hindering, not have to worry about it. Even if you don't have stealth, if you put your characters into hindering, which a lot of Clicks players will do, especially first turn, just to get that +1 to defense against range, which is tactically smart. And so I like not having to worry about that. And so I love being able to shoot through hindering, sorry. Another reason why it's on number 5 is it's just innate. Like, you don't have to position that. Like, your character just gets it. Yeah. It's not. Some of the team abilities sound really cool until you have to start trying to pull it off.
Right.
Like you have to roll, or you have to position your characters just right.
Yeah.
And so they sound cool, but then, like, in practicality, they're not as fun. But with this team ability, it just happens. It's super strong, in my opinion. But it is only one thing, and I think there are some more fun or funner, I don't know, whatever, team abilities, which is why it is only my number 5.
All right. My number 5 might be shockingly low to most people, but it is the Mystics team ability. Mystics team ability is awesome. Apparently, it used to be way worse. And I mean that as in worse to deal with, not worse to have.
Oh, okay.
I think it used to be copyable, and I think it used to be unavoidable.
Oh, gosh.
But now what it is if I damage your character with Mystics, I take 1 penetrating damage.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons it's so low on my list is this guy ignores it pretty much every time I have it. So he destroys me with it, usually. I'm like taking it every time, trying to avoid it, but not being able to, trying to just avoid his characters that have it, and he's just finding ways. He's like, oh, nice Mystics. Here's my guy with Invincible.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, all kinds of things.
Pulse Wave.
Yeah, just... I feel like I don't get to actually get the fulfillment of using it most of the time I have it.
It's a little salty.
A little bit. That's one of the reasons it's so low, but just... I think the ease of being able to kind of avoid it and be aware of it is one of the reasons it's low, but it's still awesome to have, because it's like, go ahead, damage me. You're taking damage too most of the time. So it's like a nice little extra cushion that they almost don't even want to deal with, so they might avoid that character a little longer or something. So it's cool. It's strong, but it's not as powerful as it apparently used to be. Again, you can't copy it. If you put a whole team of team players or Spider-Man together with someone with Mystics, that'd be awesome.
You just copy it.
It'd be way higher on my list if you could still do that.
Right.
But so that's my number 5, Mystics.
Okay. There you
team
go.
ability. I guess I can move on to number 4.
Go for it.
My number 4 is one that most people might not even know about, especially if you're a newer player, and that is the Crime Syndicate of America team ability.
That is an older one that they basically have gotten rid of, right?
Like I have basically the full Crime Syndicate team. There was a Fast Force, and then there was some in the main set. Oh gosh, was that? I think it was Trinity War. I think it was a Trinity War set, and it's cool. It's almost like it's the Justice League from another Earth, who are like Legion of Doom villains.
They're like evil, yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of cool. There's Owlman instead of Batman. There's Power Woman instead of Wonder Woman. Ultraman instead of Superman, and so on. And they have pretty much like extended beyond just who you normally think of as the base. I've got like that full team, but the team ability is kind of like, we don't ever use it, but it's like theme team prob.
Yeah, we should use that more often.
Basically what I can do is one of my characters with that, I can give them an action token of prob. It's just prop, but I just have to give them an action token for it, so instead of free prop. So if you're attacking me, this character over here, I'm not really going to be able to do anything else with this turn, I'll give him a token and prob it.
Yeah.
And so
because normally you only get in a meta game, or if you're doing it in casual, you only get 3 team props if you have a theme team.
So we never really played it, and then I think they changed some of the rules to it, so I'm not going to speak too much on it. But yeah, it's kind of limited, and you get a certain amount based on your team and things like that.
So with that team ability, it's like, I get more than what I normally am.
As long as you have space for a token on that character, they can use that prop.
Sweet.
And I have a character that I can give him a damage instead of giving them a token, or I can give him the token or something like that too. So.
Dude, and we'll have to try it again to see if any of those characters have willpower, because then they could roll to clear their token next turn.
Oh man, yeah, like and they're probably even stronger now with the new rules. But that team is fun. That team ability is pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
So that was my 4.
Okay, so I'll jump into my number 4. My number 4 is one that a lot of people probably haven't played. I'm not sure if it's still around. I haven't seen them give it to anybody recently. Well, maybe Rebirth was the closest. Anyways, Outsiders. I think they gave the Rebirth Batman Outsiders possibly, but maybe not.
I believe that there were some Rebirth characters with it. I can't remember if there were any in Wonder Woman 80 or not.
I don't think there was in Wonder Woman. But Outsiders, pretty awesome. When we first got into this game, when I was going through team abilities, I'm like, that's trash. Like, who cares? Because what it does, it's a free action, which Billy Batson, darn him.
Yeah.
I just now thought of that.
I love you, Billy. Every time.
I know, right? You can choose a character, including itself. So if you have the team ability on your piece, they can target them. They can target themselves. So they can look at someone 6 squares away, line of fire, and basically say, hey, your combat values cannot be modified. So that can be used in a lot of ways. The first thing I thought of was Perplex.
Yes.
And which I was like, okay, that's kind of limited. Like, you're basically just taking away Perplex. But it's not just that. So you can basically take away someone's ability to use combat reflexes, because that modifies your defense, or
energy shield deflection.
It's like, hey, that modifies your defense. So now
what you were about to accidentally say would be included. as well.
Yeah. So combat expert, range or close. You can't do that anymore, which now in the new rules is super strong, because
it basically takes away the power.
It would get rid of the power gem too. Yeah, so we didn't realize how strong it was until one time you played it, and I think I had a ton of guys that had like range combat expert, combat reflexes, and you had like 4 or 5 of the.
I played an Outsiders team.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and almost all of them had that team ability.
And I wish I could remember exactly what it was, because we're not having fun day.
No, it was a bad day for me. But you can, and it's copyable, so you could copy it, and it's just like, hey, I'm worried to get close to you because I have combat reflexes. It's like, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm just going to use my Outsider team ability. You can no longer use that. So it's like getting rid of. It's almost like Outwit at that point, because you're getting rid of powers.
Takes away a lot more though.
Right.
It takes away a hindering bonus.
Hey, that's true. Yes, I forgot about that. So hindering bonus no longer a thing. So it had way more utility than we realized. However, they don't give outsiders to a lot of people, and some of the, I mean, like Batman has it, some other cool characters have it. So that's why it was number 4, is because even though it's really cool, I don't get to use it that often because I don't play a lot of pieces.
It's DC only.
True.
They don't have a
didn't
Marvel
have
equivalent.
Yeah, so that's probably another reason. But if it had more characters that had that, and or at least a character that had it, and then I could have a bunch of copiers that copied it,
Yeah.
it probably would have been higher on my list.
Is it copyable?
It's copyable, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, wait. Sorry, it's uncopyable.
Yeah.
My mistake. So that is why it's my number 4, is because it is really good, it's fun, but there's not a lot of pieces that have it that I play. So.
All right. Yeah, you want to take off with your
So
number 3?
number three, I chose. It's funny because of what I mentioned earlier, and I'll explain that comment in a second. My number 3 is Sinister Syndicate, or the DC equivalent being Batman Enemy. The reason why it's funny that I mentioned it in my number 3 is because earlier in this video we talked about some team abilities being cool, but then like really difficult to position. So the team ability, here's what it is you can replace your attack value with an adjacent friendly member that has the same team ability. Okay, so both characters on your team have to have the team ability, and they both have to be adjacent. And if that happens, then you can replace attack value. So if you have a character that's been hit down to like a 9 attack, but you run someone up who hasn't been damaged and they have like a 12 attack, that's pretty awesome. It is difficult to position. The reason why it made my number 3 is because you and I have played some teams where we were able to make it better.
Yes.
To where we had a
There's
piece.
like one piece for each team ability that I know of.
Yeah, where it's like they don't have to be adjacent.
For each of those types. Yeah.
The one that I'm thinking of is the Kingpin.
Yeah.
Where he can give the
Within like 6 squares.
within 6 squares or something like that, he can basically have anybody replace attack values as long as they have the team ability. It is copyable, and so if you didn't have that team ability,
Right.
you could potentially copy it if you have an ability that lets you copy. So yes, it's number 3 because it's difficult to position. However, you and I have had some fun with teams that allow you to not have to be adjacent because of one piece.
Right.
I can't remember what the DC version of that was.
Oh, for the Batman Enemy?
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm thinking of a couple of
Yeah.
the others that are similar as far as the adjacent and replacing.
Right. So I think that's really cool because there's times where you were like really super excited about a piece, and then they got hit first turn, and you're like, great, now I have a 10 attack or a 9 attack.
Yeah.
But you run someone in next to them that has a better attack value. Now that piece is still actually viable.
So for me, none of these types made my list because first of all, they do highly depend on that one character. So
True.
the one that I'm thinking of is like Defenders for DC,
Replace
which is
defense
Justice
values.
Society.
Right.
And there's a Wonder Woman that lets them be within range. But even then, I feel like those team abilities, Defenders, Justice Society, Batman Enemy, and Sinister Syndicate, most of the pieces that come to mind with those team abilities have low values. So
True.
to me, it depends on having that character that lets you have a bubble for it instead of adjacency to help with making it viable. And then also having maybe a character with wild card that has better values to use.
Right. Right.
So
and
it's kind of
for all
like
the
too
things-
much that needs to help it.
Yeah, and for that reason, it normally would have been my honorable mention. I think the reason why I put it at number 3 is because I have had some fun
Yeah, you
with
used it really well with that Kingpin.
Right, that Kingpin was really fun to use. And so, again, when it comes to making these lists, sometimes it comes down to, like, our personal experiences. But it is funny because earlier in the video, I did mention all the limitations that some of these team abilities have, which is why they're not on the list. But I've had a lot of fun with that team. It is one of my favorite villain teams. Like, if I'm going to choose a villain team and it's Marvel, there's a good chance I'm going to choose Sinister Syndicate if it's not Masters of Evil. So
Yeah. So my top 3, it gets a little murky. It was a little hard. That was harder to narrow it down. These are 3 that I knew I wanted up there. So my number 3 possibly could be higher, could be stronger at times, but it is the Green Lantern team ability.
Nice.
Because, holy crap, being able to carry your entire team is powerful. I mean, especially now with the new rules is being able to carry flyers.
Right.
It's even better. You have passenger 8. You don't reduce your speed value, and you can carry flyers.
Yes.
So, boom, like, it's a little harder to position than you might think at times to actually be able to pull off carrying your whole team, which I mean, I've actually done most of the time.
But
I haven't.
it is not easy.
You have to have some sidestep or TK
Right.
to completely surround the character that you need to carry everyone.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Because you can only start out with them carrying 6, but I've multiple times carried 8.
Well, normally we play with the normal starting areas. If you had the starting areas
That's
that
true.
were the in the corners,
yeah.
it wouldn't be as difficult. But so many of the
There
maps
are
we
a
have,
few maps with special starting areas.
but normally you don't see that.
Yeah. And, I mean, or you can move the character to where they can then be carried further. But at that point, it's like, do I need to carry everyone?
Right.
If I got to move them first?
Right.
So it just depends. But, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I love it. I love the Green Lantern team ability. I've used it to carry my entire team several times. So
Absolutely. So that is a really good team ability. My number 2 has already been mentioned.
That was my 3.
That was your 3. So
Yeah.
are we on to 2s?
Yeah,
now?
yeah, you
Sorry,
can go
go ahead.
for
You want to go?
Sure.
Yeah, my bad. Okay.
My number 2 has also already been mentioned, and that is the Outsiders.
Heck yeah, yeah.
And it's probably higher on my list because, again, I was the one.
You did discover how powerful it was.
I was the one abusing you with it
Yes.
a little bit.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we talked about it a lot. Taking away everything. You could take away any modifiers. So, to speed, damage, attack, defense, range, whatever the combat value is, if I'm not mistaken, they can't be modified.
Yep.
So, unless you have something that replaces, then it's taking it away. It's taking away enhancement and power. We mentioned energy shield deflection, combat reflexes, close combat expert, range combat expert. The all of the gems, but especially the power gem.
Right.
So much is being taken away by that. Now, things that would get around it are things like the team abilities you were just talking about that you can replace by somebody next to you.
True.
But yeah, I think it was it might have been, was it your Guardians of the Galaxy team? Because
Possibly.
you got to make all of their defenses higher, but then they all had things like
Combat
reflexes and energy shield on top of it,
That's-
and I was like, I'm taking that away.
That sounds. I mean, that
Something
sounds
like that.
accurate.
So I mean, it is powerful.
Way more powerful than we thought it was.
What's funny is if you have been paying attention, my last 3, 2 through 4 were DC exclusive team abilities.
True.
There's not an equivalent in Marvel, and but yeah, it's powerful. We talked about it a lot earlier, so that's all I'm going to say about my number 2.
Okay. My number 2 has been mentioned. It's Mystics. One of the reasons why it's number 2 is it's just innate. You don't have to position it. And again, we've talked about positioning, and it is kind of weird that my number 3 was a team ability that you have to position very carefully, with very rare exceptions.
Right.
But a lot of my other team abilities that I put on my list were a large part of it anyways, was because it just happens. You don't have to position it.
No effort.
Exactly. It's just something that happens. And so like Mystics is awesome. You could have a character that either A is an annoying support piece that is like giving probs or outwits, or perplexes, and you're like, I would really like to get rid of that piece, but do I want to take a click of damage for killing it? Or not even killing it. Maybe I hit it. It still has outwit, and I just took a damage. And so that is super annoying and stressful to play against. And it is a little bit comforting. You're like, hey, you know what? If this piece gets damaged, at least I'm going to be doing some damage in return.
Right.
Yes, there are ways around it, like Joker Prime mentioned. And because the way I build my teams a lot of times, I have been able to avoid stuff like that because I like Invincible. I like being able to reduce an Pulse Wave. I like to be able to reduce penetrating damage. And it wasn't even because of Mystics. It was because of other stuff. And so Pulse Wave is awesome because you get rid of powers. It's not as cool anymore, in my opinion, because you can only do 1 damage. So I guess it was a little overpowered back then. And so I do like Mystics. It just happens. It not only does it kind of give you a little bit of comfort as a player that you're going to be giving some damage out to someone who tries to hit you, but it's also very stressful to play against. And so you know that it's something in the back of your opponent's mind that they're having to calculate. And so I like that.
Yep.
Plus, one of my favorite characters, Doctor Strange. I try to put him on a lot of teams. I like
Nearly
him on.
always has mistakes.
I love him on Defenders teams. I love him on Avengers teams.
Midnight Suns.
Midnight Suns. or just a straight up Mystics team. We're like, hey, let's find all those as many Mystic characters as possible.
Yeah, I love that.
And so I have enjoyed using Mystics, and that's why it's my number 2.
Cool. All right. Honorable mentions.
That's true because you did your 2 already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got quite a few.
I'll do. I know that's right. It's like all of them are honorable mentions. I'll start with mine because my first one has already been mentioned, the Green Lantern.
Yes.
The reason why I put it on my honorable mention is because I don't use it often because it is DC exclusive, and it was limited. It was super annoying that you couldn't carry flyers, but now it's way better. And I also really undervalued how important it is to carry characters first turn until I got brutalized by it multiple times because I didn't realize, like, hey, you know what? Give one person one action, get into your opponent's face, and now the rest of your team is not tokened. And especially back when they didn't have, they hadn't changed in Dom rules to where you could take pushing damage.
Yeah.
It was even better. It's like, hey, I don't have to worry about pushing damage because guess what? He didn't get a token last turn.
Right.
So that's Green Lantern.
So
you want to say something about it?
Yeah. Well, go back and watch. Some of our other videos, like our Flash top 5, but
Right.
talking about Green Lantern team ability, talking about carrying my whole team. I carried a team full of Dr. Fates and the Flash in there, and somebody with leadership, so I could clear my Green Lantern that was carrying everybody. The Dr. Fates all had enhancement and TKs, and
Which made the Green Lantern gross because he's doing pin side.
and they could roll the clear tokens on top of that. So there was like I was never tokened up, and I could carry everyone in position.
Yeah, I try to forget about that game. It's a nasty team.
Side note about Green Lantern team ability.
Very good, but it is an honorable mention because I don't get to use it very often. Another honorable mention for me, is the Scroll team ability, which is not really a team ability anymore. Well, I guess they've reintroduced it because of the Fantastic Four sets they've been releasing.
Yes.
It's honorable mention because I don't play it very often, and there's ways around shape change. Thank you, because Scroll team ability gives you shape change,
But it's even better if you already have shape change.
that is one thing. Is if you build the team around shape change, it makes it even stronger. But I just don't do that very often. I've played against it before. It's terrible. I hated it. I just don't play those pieces very often. But if you do build a team that has shape change, it's super annoying. But then your opponent could potentially have Battle Fury, could potentially have Outwit, and so. Plus, you have to roll a 5 or 6 unless you boost up the team
Unless
ability.
you already have it.
Yeah, because the team ability is like, hey, you get to have shape change. But if you already have shape change, then you succeed on like a 4
Well,
through
the
6.
problem is if you don't have shape change, I think it's only a 6.
Okay.
But if you do have shape change, it's a 4 through 6.
4 through 6, okay.
And so it's a smaller chance if you only have the team ability. But if you have the team ability and the ability to already use shape change, it's even better.
Right. Plus, a lot of the characters that have it don't seem to be attackers. And I'm like, well, it's cool that you're not hitting me, but like I have to eventually hit you. So that's one of the reasons why it's on an honorable mention. And then my last one is it's Brotherhood of Mutants or the Injustice League. The reason why it's honorable mention is because you have to roll a 10 through 12 after hitting.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, if I'm rolling a 10, 11, or 12 on my attack roll, I'm just happy I finally hit. And so a lot of times I forget about it. But the reason why it's honorable mention is because it could be super overpowered. If you hit, you do damage to someone, and it's like, hey,
And
guess
you don't
what?
take the token.
I'm going to go ahead and clear that
Basically,
token.
yeah.
It's just like insult to injury. And like if you were able to pull it off more often, I could see how just absolutely atrocious it would be.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, my honorable mentions. The first one is shield team ability.
Nice.
I like my shield teams. I think there's a lot. I need to try to sit down and build a truly like powerful shield team. I've kind of built teams that I'm like, they've been strong, but I haven't sat down to intentionally just abuse the team ability,
Right.
which is really cool and has a lot of potential because you get to increase your range. And there's another ability, I think it requires a token that we don't use as much to it.
Yes. You get to get +1 to damage, I believe, or attack.
Oh, it's +1 to damage when making a range attack.
Okay.
So you can give an adjacent, you can give this character a power action, and an adjacent friendly character this turn can modify its damage +1 when making a range attack. So I don't use that part of it as much because just increasing the range is strong. It just kind of happens but it's positioning again.
Yeah.
The next one is Hyper Time. That one requires your opponent to roll a dice to see if they can move adjacent to you, and if on a 1 or 2 they cannot. The main reason this is an honorable mention for me is Mr. Dross.
It's hard to get to him.
He gets to be in stealth. He gets to prop from basically everywhere, and to run up on him and try to hit him since he's in stealth. If you don't have improved movement, then you have to roll for hyper time. He's got the hyper time team ability.
Yep.
Superman Avengers Initiative, Squints mentioned, was his 5, I think.
Yes.
Just improved through hindering is good. You just get it, but it wasn't stronger than the others for me. Police and Hydra, I like to use that a lot, but it requires positioning. I like this one a lot better than the others that we mentioned that require positioning, though, because it doesn't require you to have good values or anything like that.
Right.
You just have to get adjacent, and now, since my police is adjacent to the guy making the range attack, your defense is -1.
Yes, which is good.
And then the last one I put on here is Suicide Squad.
Nice.
When an adjacent friendly character is KO'd after resolutions, you may roll a d6. If you do, heal this character equal to the result -2 with a minimum of 1. So, free healing if an adjacent friendly character gets KO'd, guaranteed 1, possibly 4.
Yes.
And then I've got an Amanda Waller that lets you do that anywhere on the map.
Yeah.
So again,
Heal is
requires a specific character to ignore the adjacency, but hers isn't even a range. It's like on the map, and it's healing. So it's like, well, you KO'd one of my people, but now this other guy that's been killing you is healing again. So,
speaking of healing, I'll just mention kind of honorable mention being Teen Titans and X-Men. The reason why I don't like it is because positioning, plus the character that heals could potentially take damage for rolling. So that's why it definitely didn't make it the list, because there's so much that could go wrong.
For me, those two were on my top worst ones because it's 1 for 1.
Yeah,
basically.
it's like, why would you do
are
that?
guaranteed you only get to heal 1, and you're potentially taking damage.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it to me.
Absolutely. All right, there we go.
Number ones.
Number ones. I'll go ahead and do. Our ones are probably the exact same. I haven't looked yet, but
It's
cosmic energy.
No, it's
is what
quintessence. For those of us that are superior.
So quintessence was the old DC one. The power cosmic was the Marvel version. They have now combined them to be
Cosmic power.
Cosmic power. So the reason why I like it is because it got rid of my fear of outwit. And so I could have a character on my board that was super strong, that I was super excited to play, and I didn't have to worry about being outwitted, which when I played against Sugar Prime, it seemed to be every team had like an abundance of outwit. And so I loved that. Plus, now it's even stronger because you get willpower.
Yes.
And so you get to potentially roll to clear that character.
Like self-leadership,
yeah.
basically.
And it's just, again, it's built in. You don't have to worry about positioning it. It just happens. So that is why it's my number one. Now, usually the characters that have this are pretty powerful, and which a lot of times means they're worth a lot of points, which makes it sometimes difficult to put them on teams because of the point cost. But some of my favorites have, or should have it more often, but some of them do have it, like Thor's and Doctor Strange's and other characters like that I enjoy being able to play and don't want them to be outwitted.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you got the potential to clear tokens from yourself. Already strong in itself, especially with the changes to,
to pushing damage.
There towards a while, they were like giving everyone willpower.
Yeah.
So that's even stronger now. I mean, that's even better than old willpower because you're clearing tokens, so you're not going to be double tokened.
Yes.
And then not being able to be outwitted. Like we mentioned, there's some characters that the regular version of them, you can't do their special thing because it's like, hey, I'm out with that one thing you want to be able to use.
Yeah.
You get it with quintessence, it's like, or power, whatever, cosmic energy, cosmic power. You can't outwit me now. One thing I will say I found hilarious that I did to Squints was I found Mr. Dario Agger.
Oh, yeah.
And
super annoying.
He was like, ha, I've got power cosmic, you can't outwit me. And I was like, actually, Dario Agger's going to come and take that away and then outwit you.
Yeah, I hate that. Especially since Dario Agger is a nobody.
He's not nobody.
He's a nobody.
He's everybody.
But yeah, that's I mean, that doesn't happen very often, but it's kind of hard not to put that for your number one because Outwit is very powerful. But additionally, with the new changes to willpower, you could potentially have a character that's never double tokened, that can just continue giving actions. And a lot of times they're doing quite a bit of damage. They're giving you 3, 4, 5 damage every time they hit you. So.
Yeah. So it is strong, but it is nice to have that. You just feel a little more comfortable. Like, well, you can't outwit that. Sorry, and I can possibly keep going with this guy.
Exactly. So let us know if there was something that we forgot to mention in terms of team abilities. Let us know what your list is. Comment in the section below.
Next time.